The predator's shadow, the forest of Viren, was silent. Too silent. Kaelin moved carefully between the tall red trees, her heart heavy with unease. She was gathering herbs for her mother, herbs that grew only near the dark ravine, but the silence told her something was wrong. Birds did not sing. The wind seemed to hold its breath. Even the insects had gone quiet. She froze when she heard it, the low growl that rolled like thunder through the trees. Her throat went dry. Her people had spoken of it since she was a child. The predator, the beast that haunted the night, the one no warrior had ever defeated. Some said it was a spirit of vengeance. Others said it was just an animal too cruel to kill. Kaelin did not care what it was. She only knew she was alone. The growl came again, closer now. Her hands shook. As she gripped the small knife she carried, it was not a weapon, not against that monster. It was only for cutting plants. Still, she held it tight. Her father once told her, "When death comes, face it standing." Those words echoed in her mind. From the shadows, a shape emerged. Its body was massive, twice the size of any hunter from her village. Its skin was dark and rough, its glowing yellow eyes fixed on her. Each step it took shook the ground. Its claws dragged across the soil, leaving deep scars. The smell of blood hung in the air around it. Kellen's chest tightened. She wanted to run, but her legs would not move. The beast circled her slowly, as if enjoying her fear. It lowered its head, its teeth gleaming like broken swords. The villagers always said when the predator chose you, there was no escape. Her mind raced. She thought of her mother waiting for the herbs, of her younger brother who always cried when she left. Tears burned her eyes. Was this how it ended? Alone in the forest, forgotten in the shadow of a monster. The predator lunged. Kaelin stumbled back, her knife raised weakly. A roar tore through the trees, louder than the beast's cry. A figure stepped from the darkness, blocking her path. It was not one of her people. It was taller, broader, armored in strange metal plates that shone faintly under the forest light. In his hands he held a weapon Kaelin had never seen before. Long and heavy, glowing at the edges, the predator stopped, confused. It snarled and scraped the ground. The figure did not move. He stood like a wall of iron, steady and unshaken. The man's voice was low, rough, and filled with command. "Stay behind me," Kaelin gasped. Her people had told stories about his kind. The humans, outsiders from the stars, reckless, dangerous, cursed. Yet here one was, standing between her and death. The predator roared again, louder, as if insulted. By this new challenger, it lunged forward, claws flashing. The human raised his weapon. Fire burst from it with a deafening crack. The blast lit the forest in a flash of white light. The beast howled and staggered back, but it did not fall. Its eyes burned with fury. Its gaze shifted from Kaelin to the human. For the first time, Kaelin saw hesitation in the predator's movements. It was wary, maybe even afraid. The human glanced at her. His eyes were sharp, filled with something Kaelin had never seen before. Not fear, not despair, but defiance. He spoke again, softer this time. "You're safe, as long as I stand." Kellen's knees weakened. Her knife slipped from her hand and fell to the ground. She could not believe what she was seeing. A man of flesh and blood standing against the nightmare that had haunted her people for generations. The predator crouched low, preparing to strike again. The forest seemed to bend around its rage. The human shifted his stance, weapon ready. Kaelin could hear her heartbeat pounding in her ears. Every second stretched into forever. The silence broke with a single word from the man, whispered like a promise. "Try me." The predator leapt, the ground trembling beneath its weight. The human did not move back. He moved forward. His weapon flared once more, a storm of light and sound tearing into the beast's chest. Kaelin covered her ears, the roar of battle shaking her to the core. When she opened her eyes, she saw the predator stagger, bleeding but not defeated. It circled again, slower this time, its fury aimed not at her, but at the strange warrior who stood in her place. Kaylin realized something. For the first time in her life, she was not the prey. The predator had found a new enemy, one it had never faced before, and the human, standing tall, unbroken, was not planning to run. The forest waited, the shadows holding their breath. Predator and protector stared at each other, two forces colliding. Kellen's fate, and maybe her people's, hung in the balance. The predator roared. The human lifted his weapon, and the battle began. The humans. The clash shook the forest. The predator's roar echoed like thunder, while the human's weapon screened fire and light. Kaylin stood frozen, her breath shallow. She had never seen such fury, never seen such defiance. The predator struck again and again, its claws tearing through trees as if they were nothing. But the human did not fall. He moved with sharp, practiced steps, blocking the beast's strikes. With his armor, his weapon blazing with power, sparks flew in every direction. The ground smoked where the predator's claws struck. Each attack could have ended him, yet he stood firm. Kellen's heart pounded. She had heard her elders say humans were reckless, doomed creatures who threw themselves into impossible battles. Now she saw it with her own eyes. But it was not just recklessness. It was something deeper. He fought as if fear had no hold on him. The predator lunged low, jaws snapping. The human rolled aside and struck with his blade. Yes, a blade. A second weapon pulled from his back. Glowing with strange human energy, he slashed across the beast's shoulder. Dark blood sprayed across the roots. The predator howled in pain, its fury rising. Kaylin gasped. No one in her people had ever wounded the beast. They only ran, hid. Yet here was a man, a stranger from the stars, standing alone against it. His voice rose above the chaos, rough but calm. Stay behind me. Don't run. It will follow fear. Stand your ground. Her legs trembled, but his command held her like chains. She pressed her back to the tree, eyes wide, watching every strike. Every second felt like the end. The predator slammed its massive tail, sending the human flying back into a tree. The impact cracked wood. Kaylin screamed, thinking he was dead. But he rose, blood on his lip, his weapon still in hand. He spat to the ground and grinned. You hit harder than you look, the predator growled, its yellow eyes burning brighter. It charged again, the ground shaking with each step. The human braced himself, his weapon glowing hot. He fired in short bursts, each blast tearing chunks of flesh from the monster. The air filled with smoke and blood. Kaylin covered her mouth, terror and awe mixing inside her. She had never seen courage like this, not from her kind, not from any being she knew. The human was not just fighting for himself. He was standing in front of her, protecting her as if her life was his own. The predator staggered, wounded but not defeated. Its rage was endless. It circled them, searching for weakness. The human lowered his weapon for a moment, breathing heavy. He turned his head slightly toward Kaylin. This isn't over, but you're going to live. I swear it. Kaylin felt her chest tighten. No one had ever promised her life like that. Not even her own people. For them, the predator was fate. For this human, fate was something to fight. The beast roared once more, this time pulling back into the shadows of the trees. Its eyes glowed like twin suns in the dark, watching, waiting. It was retreating, not out of fear, but to strike again stronger. The forest went silent once more. Kellen's breath shook as she whispered, Why? Why would you do this for me? You don't even know me. The human's gaze stayed fixed on the trees, his weapon still raised. His voice was steady, like stone. Because that thing thinks you're prey, and humans don't let predators choose who lives. The words struck her harder than the battle itself. They were not just words of protection. They were a challenge to the universe itself. From the shadows came another growl, deeper, heavier than before. Callan's eyes widened. There's more than one. The human nodded, his jaw set. He tightened his grip on the weapon, firelight still flickering at its core. His eyes burned with a strange light, defiance mixed with something else, an unshakable promise. He took a step forward, shielding her once more. Good, let them come. Asterisk. Fear versus defiance. The village of Vera burned with whispers that night. Kaelin returned with the human at her side, but her people did not cheer. They did not thank him. Instead, they stepped back in fear. Some hissed his name as if it was poison. Human, the council gathered quickly, old faces lined with fear and anger. They looked at Kaelin with cold eyes. You brought him here? Do you know what you've done? Cullen's voice shook, but she stood tall. He saved me. Without him, I'd be dead. The elders spat on the ground. Humans bring only war. They fight until fire burns whole worlds. You have cursed us by leading him here. Rourke, the human stood silent, his armor scarred, his weapon heavy in his hand. He did not defend himself. He only watched. Sharp eyes scanning the shadows. He was not afraid of the council. He was watching for the predator. Kaelin clenched her fists. Her people's voices grew louder, fear rising like a storm. They begged the council to cast the human out, to let the predator take him. Better one stranger dies than all of us. Her chest ached. She wanted to scream at them. Didn't they see? He had stood when none of them would. He had shielded her. A stranger had given her what her own people would not hope. Suddenly, a howl tore through the night. The sound froze the crowd, low and heavy, shaking the very walls of the village. Mothers clutched their children. Warriors gripped spears they knew were useless. A predator had returned, but not alone. Yellow eyes gleamed at the edge of the forest. One pair, then another, and another. The darkness was alive with them. Kellen's people cried out. Some dropped their weapons, their voices breaking. We are doomed. The council turned to Rourke, their faces pale. You brought this human. For the first time, Rourke spoke. His voice was cold steel. No. They were always coming. You just chose to hide until now. He raised his weapon, the firelight catching in his eyes. But I don't hide. I fight. Kaelin stared at him. Her heart raced. The council's fear pressed down on her, their cowardice, pulling her toward silence. Yet the human's words burned like fire in her chest. The predators growled, circling closer. The forest shadows shifted like moving walls. The people of Vera looked at each other. Torn between running and waiting for death, Kaelin made her choice. She stepped beside Rourke, her voice clear. If he fights, I fight too. Gasps filled the air. The council shouted, calling her reckless, foolish, cursed, but she no longer heard them. She felt the ground shake as the predators advanced. She felt the cold air of death breathing on her, but she also felt the heat of Rourke's presence. Unshaken, unbroken, Rourke glanced at her. His lips curved into a small, grim smile. That's the spirit. The predators roared as one. Shaking the night, the villagers fell to their knees. Covering their ears, Kaelin stood tall, fear clawing at her, but her hands steady. Rourke lowered his weapon and whispered almost to himself, Fear makes you pray. Defiance makes you human. And with that, he stepped forward, straight into the circle of yellow eyes. Kaelin gasped, torn between terror and awe. In that moment, she knew the predator had found something new, something it could not understand. Not prey, not victim, but defiance itself. Asterisk the predator hunt. The village did not sleep. The predators circled the edge of the forest, their growls rolling like thunder in the night. Fires burned in the square, but even the flames seemed weak against the yellow eyes in the dark. The council whispered about sacrifice. They wanted to give the human to the beasts. If we cast him out, the predators will leave, they said. Their voices shook, but their fear was louder than reason. Rourke heard every word. He did not flinch. Instead, He tightened the straps on his armor, checked the charge on his weapon, and looked into the forest. He was preparing, not pleading. Kaelin stood beside him, ignoring the stares of her people. She whispered, "They will never stand with us." Rourke gave a short nod. "Then we go to them, hunt the hunters." Her breath caught. His words were madness. Yet when she looked into his eyes, she saw no doubt, no fear, only fire. A strength her people did not understand. Before dawn, they left the safety of the walls. The forest swallowed them in shadow. The air was heavy with the stink of blood. Every branch seemed alive with movement. Every step felt like it might be their last. Rourke moved with purpose. Every sound measured, every glance sharp. He was a predator too, Kaelin realized. Not prey, never prey. She followed his lead, heart racing, clutching the spear he had pressed into her hands. They tracked the beasts to the ravine. The ground was torn by claws, bones scattered in the dirt, the lair. Kellen's blood turned cold. She had heard tales of it as a child. No one who entered ever returned. Inside, the cave walls dripped with moisture, and the air reeked of rot. Yellow eyes flickered. In the shadows, not one, but many, the predators were here, waiting. Kellen's hand shook on the spear, but Rourke only whispered, "Stay low, watch me, strike when you must." His voice was steady, calm, as if they were about to face nothing more than another day. The first beast lunged from the dark, claws flashing. Rourke's weapon roared, fire lighting the cavern. The shot tore into the predator's chest, throwing it back, but others surged forward. Kaelin cried out. She thrust her spear at one, the tip striking its flank. The creature shrieked, snapping its jaws at her. Rourke was there in an instant, his blade cutting it down before it reached her. The cave shook with chaos, predators pouring from every shadow, their roars deafening. Kaelin stumbled, nearly falling, but Rourke pulled her up, his grip like iron. "Don't stop. Keep moving." Together, they fought deeper into the lair. Every step a storm of claws and fire. Blood sprayed across the stone, the air thick with smoke. Kellen's fear turned into something else, fury. She screamed as she drove her spear into another beast, and for the first time, it fell at her feet. Rourke gave a sharp grin. "Good, that's how you fight." But as the smoke cleared, Kaelin froze. Her eyes widened at the sight before them. The chamber opened wider, and in the center lay nests, dozens of them, eggs cracked, small predators crawling out, hissing with hunger. Kellen's heart sank. "There are too many." Rourke's face hardened, his weapon hummed with heat. "Then we finish this." The predators roared in unison, their shadows crawling across the walls. The lair was alive with death, and two figures, one human. One alien stood alone at its heart. Kellen's chest rose and fell with fire. She had thought she was prey, thought her people were helpless. But standing here, with Rourke at her side, she felt something she never knew before defiance. Ground trembled as the largest predator stepped from the dark. Towering above the others, its roar shook the cave. Kellen's blood went cold, but Rourke only lifted his weapon. Eyes locked on the beast, his voice was quiet, steady. "We fight. Our way out, asterisk." The battle of instincts. The cavern shook as the largest predator stepped forward. Its body towered above them, muscles rippling, jaws dripping with saliva. Its roar split the air like thunder. The smaller beasts hissed and scattered, circling the edges, waiting for the kill. Kellen's spear shook in her hands. Her knees threatened to give way. But beside her, Rourke stood firm. His weapon hummed with deadly light. His voice was low, steady. "This is the Alpha. Break it, and the rest will break too." The Alpha charged, the ground trembling beneath its weight. Rourke fired, bursts of energy slamming into its chest. The blasts tore flesh, but did not stop it. The monster kept coming, fury burning in its yellow eyes. At the last second, Rourke pushed Kalen aside. The Alpha's claws smashed into him, sending him skidding across the stone. His armor cracked, blood spraying from his side. Kalen screamed. Her heart froze. For a breath, she thought he was dead. But slowly, painfully, Rourke rose again. His blade gripped tight in his bloody hand. His teeth bared in defiance. "You'll have to do better than that." The Alpha lunged again. Rourke met it head-on. His blade slashed across its face, blinding one eye. The beast howled in rage, its claws cutting through stone as it struck. Back, sparks rained down as they clashed. Man and monster locked in brutal combat. Kellen's chest heaved. She wanted to run. Every instinct told her to hide, but something inside her refused. She grabbed her spear and charged at a smaller predator. Her scream echoed in the chamber as the tip sank deep into its neck. The beast collapsed at her feet. Her people had always said she was weak, that no one could stand against the predator. Yet here she was, fighting, bleeding, surviving. She looked at Rourke, and for the first time, she understood fear was instinct, but defiance was choice. The Alpha swung its massive tail, the blow smashing Rourke into the cavern wall. He coughed blood, his armor torn apart. Kalen cried out and ran to him, but he lifted a trembling hand, pushing her back. "No, stay clear." The Alpha reared up, its claws raised to strike the final blow. Kellen's scream tore through the cavern, but Rourke moved first. He threw his broken rifle to the ground and raised his blade with both hands. His voice was a roar of his own. "Not while I stand." He leapt forward, driving the blade deep into the predator's chest. The monster shrieked, thrashing wildly. Its claws ripped across Rourke's side, blood spilling freely, but he did not let go. He forced the blade deeper, inch by inch, until the beast crashed to the ground. Shaking the cavern, Kalen dropped to her knees beside him, her hands on his bloodied armor. "You're dying," she whispered, her voice breaking. Rourke coughed, but his eyes burned with fire. "Not yet, not until you're safe." The cavern walls shook, more predators howled. From the shadows, their yellow eyes glowing brighter. The death of the Alpha had not ended the fight, it had awakened the fury of the pack. Kellen's tears blurred her vision. She looked at the endless swarm. She looked at Rourke bleeding at her side, and she made her choice. Her hands gripped his. Fallen weapon, the human rifle still warm with energy. She lifted it, heavy and strange in her grasp. Her voice trembled, but her words cut through the dark. "Then I'll fight like you." The pack roared as one, surging forward. The cavern became a storm of claws, fire, and blood. And Kalen, no longer prey, stood at the front. The humans. The cavern floor was slick with blood. Predator bodies lay scattered, their yellow eyes dim, but more still hissed in the dark. Their claws scraping stone, Kalen stood trembling, the human rifle heavy in her hands. Beside her, Rourke knelt, one hand pressed to his side where blood poured freely. His face was pale, but his eyes were steady. "You fight well," he whispered. Kalen shook her head, tears running down her cheeks. "I only fight because you showed me how." Another predator lunged from the shadows. Kalen lifted the weapon and fired. The blast shook her shoulders. The beast fell smoking to the ground. Rourke gave a faint smile. "Good, you're learning fast." But Kellen's heart ached. She could see he was fading. His breath came slow, his grip on the blade weak. She cried, "We have to leave. You'll die if we stay." Rourke forced himself to stand, every movement filled with pain. "No, if we leave now, they'll follow us to your village. They'll kill everyone." His voice was low but firm. "We end it here." Kellen's throat tightened. Her people would never stand with him. They would never fight. Yet this broken human was still ready to face death for them. For her, she put her hand on his chest, over the cracked armor. "Why? Why do you care if we live or die?" Rourke's gaze met hers. His voice was a whisper, heavy with iron. Because humanity protects, even if it costs us everything. The words struck her deeper than any blade. They were not a boast, not pride, but a promise, a truth that lived in his blood. The cavern shook again. More predators closed in, circling them like shadows with teeth. Rourke swayed, his wounds slowing him. Kaelin felt a fire rise inside her. She could not let him fall. Not here, not after all he had given. She grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the tunnel. "Then I will protect you," she said fiercely. "If humanity stands for others, and I will stand for you." They stumbled back through the twisting tunnels, predators snapping at their heels. Kaelin fired blast after blast, her voice raw with screams of defiance. Rourke's blade flashed. When her shots failed, even as his strength waned, finally, the mouth of the cavern opened. Dawn light spilled across the trees. The village walls stood in the distance. The predators slowed, snarling, afraid of the light. But they did not retreat. They followed, hungering for blood. Kaelin dragged Rourke through the gates. The villagers gasped in horror at the sight of the wounded human and the swarm behind them. The council shouted, their voices sharp with fear. "Cast him out. Let the beasts have him." Kaelin spun, her face wet with tears, but her eyes blazing with fire. "No," she shouted, her voice echoing across the square. "He saved me when none of you would. He fought when all of you hid. If you want him gone, you will have to cast me out too." The crowd fell silent. Mothers clutched their children. Warriors looked at each other in shame. None stepped forward. Rourke swayed, his body collapsing. Kaelin caught him, holding him close. His whisper brushed her ear, weak but unshaken. "Do not give them to fear. Teach them to fight." Kellen's tears fell on his armor. Her heart burned with his words. She rose to her feet, still holding the weapon he had given her. She turned to her people, her voice shaking but filled with fury. "The predators are here. They will not stop. You can hide, you can beg, or you can fight, but I will fight, and I will fight like a human." The predators roared at the gates, shaking the village walls. The people trembled, torn between terror and the fire that burned in her words. And in the center of it all, a dying human whispered a promise that still echoed in Kellen's soul. "Humanity protects, asterisk." The last stand, the gates of Vera shook under the force of the predators. Their roars split the morning sky, claws scraping against wood and stone. The people huddled in fear, eyes wide, hearts frozen. But in the center of the square stood Kaelin. Her body trembled, yet her hands held the human's rifle steady. Beside her, Rourke leaned against her shoulder, pale, bleeding, but still alive. His broken armor glinted in the firelight. His voice, weak but firm, cut through the silence. "They are not gods. They are not fate. They bleed. And if they bleed, they can be beaten." The villagers looked at one another, shame in their eyes. For years they had hidden, surrendered, called themselves prey. But now a stranger stood dying on their soil, refusing to bow, and one of their own, Kaelin, burned with the fire of his defiance. The gates splintered. The predators poured in like a storm of shadows and teeth. Kaelin screamed, lifting the weapon. A blast of fire and light tore the first beast apart. The villagers gasped. The human's words echoed in her chest. "Fear makes you prey. Defiance makes you human." Something shifted in the crowd. A young warrior raised his spear, then another, and mothers clutched stones. Farmers gripped axes. The spark caught flame, and for the first time in generations, the people of Vera chose to fight. The battle was chaos. Predators leapt into the streets, jaws snapping, claws rending, but Kaelin led the charge, blasting, striking, screaming until her throat was raw. The villagers followed, their fear breaking. Under the weight of their fury, Rourke staggered into the fight. Blade in hand, his wounds screamed, his body failing, but his spirit was iron. He struck down beast after beast, shielding Kaelin when claws closed in on her back. The ground shook. As the largest predator, the new Alpha charged into the square. Its roar shattered the air. Villagers fell back in terror. But Rourke stepped forward, swaying. His voice was a growl of defiance. "You want prey. You'll choke on us first." The monster lunged. Kaelin cried out, but Rourke met it head-on. His blade sank deep into its chest. The beast struck him with a claw, tearing his armor apart. He fell to his knees, blood flooding the ground. Kaelin screamed, fury breaking her fear. She seized the rifle and fired with all her strength. Shot after shot ripped into the predator. The blasts tore through its skull, and with a final shriek, the beast crashed to the earth. Dead, the square fell silent. The smaller predators froze, their eyes flickering. Leaderless, they turned, retreating back into the forest, their shadows melting into the dawn. The villagers stood in stunned silence, their weapons dripping with blood. For the first time, they had not hidden. They had not begged. They had fought, and they had won. Kaelin dropped to her knees beside Rourke. His chest rose and fell weakly. His eyes, dim but burning with pride, met hers. She sobbed, "Don't leave me, please." His hand, shaking, brushed her cheek. His voice was faint, but clear. "Remember, humanity protects." Her tears fell. On his bloodied armor, she clutched his hand. "And so will I." The villagers gathered, not with anger now, but with awe. They looked at Kaelin, at the human, at the battlefield they had claimed together. For the first time, they understood. Human was not a curse. He was the shield they never dared to be. Kaelin rose slowly, lifting Rourke's blade high. Her voice rang out, fierce and unbroken. "We are not prey. Not anymore." The village roared with her, their fear gone, their fire reborn. And as dawn broke across Vera, one truth burned brighter than the sun. Humanity had not just shielded her. Humanity had taught them all to stand. Asterisk.